He said he wouldn't do it, then he did it.
This full and unconditional pardon.
U.S. President Joe Biden has pardoned his son, Hunter.
The presidential pardon Joe Biden has just issued his son, Hunter, is sweeping in nature. Total immunity for anything criminal he may have done in the last 10 years.
This is a major reversal on a deeply personal matter.
So why now? Was Biden lying when he promised to stay out of his son's criminal case? And either way, how does this now change the rules of the game? So let's look at the pardon itself, an executive grant of clemency. It starts, "To all to whom these presents shall come," which is just a very old way of saying to whom it may concern. Then it says, "Robert Hunter Biden, a full and unconditional pardon." And then, here's the important part, "For those offenses against the United States which he has committed or may have committed or taken part in during the period from January 1st, 2014 through December 1st, 2024. So there are two cases where Hunter Biden was convicted on felony charges. One was for lying about his drug addiction so that he could buy a handgun.
He's accused of lying on a government form, buying and owning a gun while he was using illegal drugs.
The other case was for tax evasion.
9 indictments against the president's son this morning from a court in California, including failure to pay nearly $1.5 million in taxes and filing false tax returns.
Money which, by the way, he has since paid back. Both of those sets of crimes occurred in the last 10 years, which this pardon covers. But even if, hypothetically, there's some other crime that he committed in that time, which we don't know about, this pardon covers that too.
It is unusual for there not to be specific crimes that are cited.
Presidents can frame the pardons however they please, with very rare exceptions. Most are specific to crimes and sentences and not broadly worded to capture possible crimes that occurred within a given time frame.
And I'll show you what she means. Through the U.S. Justice Department, I managed to track down the clemency records of Roger Stone. He's a longtime Trump friend and confidant. He got wrapped up in the Russia investigation, indicted for lying to Congress, witness tampering, and obstruction. But the pardon Trump granted him while he was president is for those very specific crimes. You see the case number, the charges, the exact sentence. It is a full, unconditional, but narrowly applied pardon. Here's another one for Paul Manafort, who served as Trump's campaign chair in 2016. Again, we don't need to analyze the details line by line, but the document is very clear about which specific crimes are being pardoned. And I'll show you one more, because this one's a little different. It still pardons only very specific crimes, in his case, tax evasion and one charge related to a bizarre blackmail plot. But this is a pardon for Charles Kushner. That's the father of Jared Kushner, who is Donald Trump's son-in-law, husband to his daughter, Ivanka. And I say this just to make the point that the pardon of Hunter Biden isn't the first time we've seen a president pardon a relative. But there is only one other time many of the experts we spoke to say we've seen such a sweeping pardon affecting any potential crime committed during a huge window of time.
Richard Nixon.
Richard Nixon.
The big one, of course, is Richard Nixon after Watergate.
Does harken back to Nixon's pardon.
50 years ago, Gerald Ford issued a blanket pardon for Richard Nixon, not just for his involvement in the Watergate scandal, but for any offense Nixon may have committed between exactly January 20th, 1969 and August 9th, 1974, the exact span of Nixon's presidency.
He wanted to move the country forward. The best way to do that, he thought, was to give Nixon a full and unconditional pardon.
But the use of pardons has changed since then. Traditionally, full pardons have mostly been granted to people who've already served their time.
It is mostly symbolic. It has the effect of restoring any civil rights that the person might have still lost as a result of being a convicted felon.
Pardons have tended to emphasize an accepting of responsibility and a desire to move on. But in Trump's case, and now in Biden's case, they've been quite clear. The justice system can't always be trusted to get things right, and sometimes only the president, with this broad, unilateral, and nearly absolute power, can make it right. Throughout his presidency, Joe Biden has always promised that he wouldn't interfere in his son's criminal case.
I said I abide by the jury decision, and I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
Is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No. It's still a no. It will be a no. It is a no. Will he pardon his son? No.
Does the president have any intention of pardoning him?
We've been asked that question multiple times. Our answer stands, which is no.
This is because, I think, he understood what it would mean for a president to appear to so brazenly misuse their power in a way that might seem incredibly self-serving.
Well, I think a lot of people would say, well, you know, if it were my son and I had the power to do something about it, I would do it, but that doesn't make it any less problematic.
This does create some real problems for the Democratic Party. You know, their whole thing has been that nobody is above the law.
In his official statement, Joe Biden doesn't hide the fact that he's doing this for personal reasons. No reasonable person who looks at the facts of Hunter's cases can reach any other conclusion than Hunter was singled out only because he is my son. And that is wrong. In trying to break Hunter, they've tried to break me. And there's no reason to believe it will stop here. Enough is enough. Now, what is he talking about there?
I think it comes down to the fact that he doesn't want to put his son in Donald Trump's target for retribution.
Trump and his supporters believe Hunter Biden is guilty of more than what he's been charged with. Last year, House Republicans led an impeachment inquiry into Joe Biden's business relationship with his son, particularly while he was vice president and his son conducted business in Ukraine and China. That inquiry ultimately didn't really get anywhere. It stopped short of alleging any criminal wrongdoing. But Donald Trump doesn't appear to want to drop the case.
President Biden engaged in impeachable conduct and said he abused his office and defrauded the United States of America to enrich his family.
Biden's pardon covers the moment Hunter joined the board of a Ukrainian gas company. That's why it goes back 10 years. And just one day before Biden announced this pardon, Trump announced his pick for the next head of the FBI, a loyalist who has vowed to go after Trump's enemies.
There is no question this is a fraught moment.
I think the problem here is that both sides don't really adhere to any sort of neutral principle against politicizing the Justice Department. The problem that they have is when it's politicized against their side.
I think it's out the window that there is any kind of decorum around pardons.
Pardoning somebody for a length of time, 11 years, and having it encompass anything that happened during that period of time. If you're Donald Trump, you could potentially look at that and say, I'm going to pardon people without specifying crimes.
Donald Trump, once he assumes office, will be under pressure to pardon his supporters who were jailed after the January 6th riots on the Capitol. Some of them are still in prison, even now. But what's new is that Biden and Trump now appear to agree on one critical thing, that justice has been twisted by politics, and that sometimes the justice system gets things very wrong. And it should be within a president's authority to make things right, as he or she sees fit.